Hello and welcome to BTC 24 in Honolulu. Joining me now is James Grice, Chair of Data Centers and Digital Infrastructure Practice at Akerman. And James, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah.
How is Hawaii treating you?
Oh, wonderful. You know, the weather and it's a welcome change from the cold weather that's hit the United States and continental.
Well, but whilst the weather here is very good, there's some storms brewing.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit dramatic.
Yeah.
On the legal and regulatory side. So what would you say are the biggest challenges when it comes to regulation and legal within the digital infrastructure space?
Well, in digital infrastructure space, I mean, the challenges really kind of manifest themselves in just sheer delivery. The AI wave has hit, and so we have kind of challenges with supply chain and anything that kind of slows the delivery, and creates more imbalance with supply and demand.
Okay, an interesting part of your job, at least from what I read about your job, is that there's an integration. You work within the renewable energy side and the infrastructure side. So what's the integration like of those two from a legal perspective?
Well, we're seeing the integration more now than we have ever, really. I mean, the data center industry has been on the forefront of sustainability and renewable energy for years, but now it's even more important just because of the whole cycle of energy transition. Energy transition and climate change are dictating the decommissioning of more fossil fuel-based energy sources, and so renewable energy is more in demand for various obvious reasons, and so just managing your way through that does give rise to a few challenges, not the least of which is just originating enough power that is baseload usable power for the data center, because of course data centers run 24/7, and that's the bridge between the two. It's becoming much more power centric in general, and renewable energy in specific.
When clients come to you, digital infrastructure clients come to you, is that one of their main pain points? Is it or is it the forefront of the issues they face, or is there something else?
Power is probably, at this point in time, it seems to kind of come to the forefront as being one of the biggest separators of a successful project and an unsuccessful project. We're starting to see kind of capacity constraints, and so we're finding that to be one of the more prominent issues in new site selection and development.
Okay. When we look into the policy side of the world, and there's this, well, we could spend hours on that, but let's be very concise. What have been some of the recent policy changes that could affect or are affecting investment within our sector?
Well, the policies can have variability from one jurisdiction to another. Tax policy seems to have an impact on some of the various, let's call it, development in different jurisdictions across the United States. And then, we can kind of circle back on power. In the United States, at least, you have different regulatory environments for how power can be produced and sold and delivered and distributed. And so the policy around power, I think, is maybe the best way to answer is we probably need to see some developments in policy around power and energy to provide a more successful, environment for that.
Okay. Another big topic in our industry. I mean, usually we say it's borderless. But cross-border transactions are becoming harder. There's a lot of data sovereignty laws coming out. Mm-hmm. How complicated are things right now? Like, how complicated are things? Let's just go with that. Really, let's just paint the picture.
Well, the data
cross-border development.
Yeah, well, the data sovereignty issues do create some complications. It creates some complications with the management of the data, right? Once the data is in the data center. As far as the development is concerned, the development of a data center, the sheer infrastructure, would be more impacted by the physical limitations that you might have in that jurisdiction. And the data sovereignty might create demand in one jurisdiction versus another, because you need to retain that data within the jurisdiction. But the cross-border transactions, they continue to have their own, kind of additional complexities. Many times those are rooted in just cross-border investment limitations. There are some national security issues in the United States. Inborn investors have to kind of make it through an organization called CFIUS, which is based on a national security review. and sometimes that would have some limitations on who could actually invest in that type of infrastructure in the United States. The UK has similar, more rigorous rules, and they just updated them, and those just a couple of big jurisdictions. But those are the nature of the cross-border investment. It's more about the nature of the investor, and then also just the import-export of just the supply chain items that are needed. If your manufacturing is not in the United States, then the delays that may be caused with the import-export just compounds and amplifies supply chain delays.
Very interesting. But I mean, those delays, those issues, those challenges translate into business for you. So what's Akerman planning to do over the next 12 months to answer market demand? I mean, from buyers to expansions to, let's talk about the business.
Well, a good friend of mine in the industry, it's probably been a year or two ago, I said, where do you see opportunity? And he said, everywhere. And that's kind of where we are right now. When you're talking about data centers, there's just going to be a lot of demand for new data center capacity, where the industry seems to be absorbing the available inventory. And so new development is key, new investment is key. And so from our standpoint, we're ramping up to address power issues significantly, end-to-end considerations around power. We're ramping up to serve the needs of folks that do want to actually do, ground-up development and investment in ground-up development, and then end-to-end use all the way through, lease-up and disposition. But it's really kind of all aspects of the data center life cycle that are going to continue to see growth, in our opinion. So we're just trying to make sure we build out our team further, build out our bench strength to accommodate all of those various disciplines needed.
I just hear the word busy in my head.
Yeah.
So when then, to close, because I know it's getting to the end of the day today, there's still another day to go tomorrow. So when you come back here again in 12 months' time for PTC 25, what's one thing that you think the industry can and should achieve in 12 months?
It's such a complex web of details needed to pull a successful project together, and so I don't know that I could nail one thing down. But the things we've talked about, I think the ability to manage the energy process, if there could be improvements on that, I think everyone would benefit. And like I say, just the speed to delivery, as we absorb the available inventory, to make sure that we could shorten the time frame needed to bring that new inventory online. If the industry can accomplish that, again, there's many variables in that will allow that. That would be something that would be a great accomplishment for the industry in the next year.
It'll definitely be an exciting year.
Yeah, it will be.
James Grice, Chair of Data Center and Digital Infrastructure Practice at Akerman. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social media for more timely news about digital infrastructure from across the globe. At the Tech Capital, we lead, we report. Aloha.
Aloha.